There's one issue that's dominated the headlines over the last decade.
Immigration has divided the nation.
Net migration hit a record high.
Every government recently has tried to address immigration.
See, in 2025, an estimated 813,000 people immigrated to the UK, whilst just 642,000 left. Immigration to Britain has changed a lot over the last decade, and is actually falling at the moment. But compare it to the number emigrating away, and one thing is clear. More people arrive than leave. It wasn't always this way though. In the 19th and much of the 20th century, it was actually British citizens who migrated across the world. Brits would travel to places like the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand with no restrictions, and sometimes they were even offered free passage. This graph shows emigration back then. Notice how high it is. More Brits were leaving the UK than were arriving here. So, what happened more recently? Emigration steadily declined from the 1960s all the way until the point where more people were immigrating to the UK than were leaving. And it's never been the same ever since. But why? How did the UK move from a country of emigration, where its citizens left to far-flung places across the globe, to one of immigration, where more people come here than leave? Well, an economic historian wanted to find out.
From 1870 to 1913, you've got net emigration is about 6 million. And that's equivalent to about 13% or so of the UK population in 1913. So it's a big number.
That's economic historian Tim Hatton, and he wanted to explain why this changed. He looked back to when emigration from Britain was in its golden era, about 100 years before, and found this was because of four main factors.
The key variables that matter are unemployment at home and abroad, relative real wages, that is, wages divided by the cost of living. Another very important factor is what proportion of the home population are young, because we know that those are the people who've got the biggest incentive to migrate. And then the final thing is the stock of previous immigrants who are currently residing abroad. Those previous migrants are helping further migrants to come.
See, if Brits saw there were more jobs or higher wages in other countries, especially if they were young, with the most to gain, they would be more likely to move abroad. Plus, if there were already friends or relatives who'd made the jump, that only encouraged them further. Hatton took this list of factors and used them to predict what emigration should have been from the 1960s, based on the pre-1914 experience. He plotted a graph, and this line shows his prediction. Emigration stays relatively high, mostly a result of the large share of young people in the baby boomer generation. Only by the late 80s is it predicted to fall sharply as wages in the UK rise compared to other countries. But this prediction is not what actually happened. In reality, emigration actually declined straight away and remained low for much of this period.
And you basically got a prediction, which is that there's no change, at least until the 1990s. And then the actual, which is a decline. So that sort of suggests that this difference could be due to changing immigration policies.
See, what this prediction didn't take into account was the laws about emigrating to another country. Back in the 19th century, this didn't matter much. There was essentially free migration, and often it was even subsidised. And whilst migration mostly stopped during the two world wars, it bounced back soon after. There were even schemes set up for travel to Australia and New Zealand. This created the so-called £10 POMs, travelling to Australia for just 10 quid. But after the 1960s, this began to change rapidly. From then, increasingly countries started to restrict people coming from Britain. Subsidies were removed, immigration targets were reduced, and increasingly point systems were created, which restricted migrants to only the most skilled workers.
You've got Canada putting on quota and then skill selective policies in 1967. US, a big change in policy in 1965. Skill selective policies in Australia, 1979-83, and then followed in New Zealand.
All in all, Hatton found that the changes in these policies accounted for 2/3 of the fall in the emigration rate. Today, immigration dominates British politics, but the research suggests an important part of the story is often overlooked. The UK became a country of net immigration not just because more people arrived, but because far fewer Brits were able to leave. And that shift was shaped as much by policies overseas as by anything happening at home. Thank you to Tim Hatton for his support as part of this project. Please watch further videos in our series delivered by Discover Economics and Cage Research Centre. Please visit our website and follow us on social media.